Platte County, Missouri, located just north of downtown Kansas City, is one of the state's fastest growing counties. Among the rapid growth and fast-paced life is an oasis tucked into the river bluffs along the Missouri River. With green space disappearing every day, a piece of nature has been saved for future generations. The Green Hills of Platte Wildlife Preserve combines natural and cultural history into one beautiful location. The preserve consists of nearly 50 acres of property that is owned and managed by the Platte County Parks and Recreation Department. Funds from the county's parks, recreation sales tax, leveraged with a grant from the Land, Water, and Conservation Fund, administered through the Missouri Department of Natural Resources, made the acquisition of the Green Hills Wildlife Preserve possible. A leader in the preservation of this important property is Miss Dorothy Day, a lifelong resident of Platte County.
In 1912, my grandparents, maternal grandparents, bought this cabin. They loved the rustic cabin and they knew it was very old and very secure. Another part that they liked about the property was the fact that there was a freshwater spring on it.
The history and natural environment that is an integral part of the preserve became increasingly important to Dorothy over the years. She knew this was going to be her lifelong home.
Originally, I thought when I was growing up I wanted a stone house. And I planned to build one on the South Hill. But after my grandmother died, the house was vacant for about 20 years. And I began to realize the charm of it.
Archaeological assessments of the cabin indicate its construction dates back to the early 1800s. A French fur trading company may have built the cabin as a trapper outpost in the rugged Missouri territory.
A fur company had built it for the trappers and didn't put heat in it because they didn't want them to be comfortable and stay in the cabin. They wanted them out trapping.
Large trees cut on the property provided the timbers used to build the cabin. The pioneers' construction skills, along with the Day family's desire to preserve the cabin, helped it to survive the test of time.
It was all hand built. Each log, you can see the marks on the logs where they used what they called a froe and an adze to cut the logs from the trunks of the big trees. It's a mix of walnut, cottonwood, and all the trees that were growing here in that time. I think this would be very interesting for people to see how these logs were cut and how they were locked together at the corners. Some are called dovetail, and you can tell that, and then some are called half dovetail. This particular cabin has a combination of both. Some corners have dovetail locked logs and some have half dovetail.
The cultural history of the Green Hills of Platte Wildlife Preserve is complemented by the abundance of native plants and wildlife that can be found in the preserve.
There are lots of wildlife, all of the birds that you'll find in Missouri. There are raccoons, possums, rabbits, squirrels. There's a bobcat, resident bobcat, which my neighbors saw just yesterday. And of course deer, lots of deer. About all the wildlife you would find in this part of the country. These have just come up here. They started coming up last year. They're wild and they're ground cherries. They have the little yellow bloom, and then you see this like a Japanese lantern looking fruit. When that turns brown and dries, it will have a little cherry inside that's edible and quite tasty. Then here are some of the daylilies in full bloom now.
Dorothy's father, Ernest Evans, influenced her appreciation of the natural environment. He taught her that it was important to live in harmony with nature.
One of the reasons that I've always enjoyed nature and trees is the example my father set. We used to watch the foxes. They had a den across the ravine from the house, and he would buy expensive cheese and stuff to put out for them every night just to see them.
Passing this appreciation of nature on to others is important to Dorothy, and she believes that the preserve is just the place where this can happen.
I would like to see young people, the children, really appreciate nature. To me, it's so gratifying to know that this over 40 acres, close to 50 acres now, will be for the enjoyment of all the people for future generations. Someone one time asked me what one of my goals was, and I told them if I could make even one child an environmentalist, I would consider that goal accomplished.
Platte County initiated a master planning process upon acquisition of the property to collect public input about the preserve. Important elements of the plan included a trailhead, walking trails, prairie and wetland features, and improvements to the south wing of the cabin for use as an indoor classroom. The plan incorporates shared visions that will ensure the preservation and proper management of this valuable resource.
I went to all the park department meetings, and it was such a thrill to see on that screen the words Green Hills Wildlife.
The preserve's cultural and natural history will be available for future generations to enjoy. It's a place where our early ancestors met the challenges of the frontier and where nature stood its ground. It's an example of the natural environment and people coexisting in harmony. It reminds us to slow down, look around, and remember our past.
Something about getting back to nature that you can't do it any other way. And they get away from all of the mechanical things, that they think make them happy, and realize now it's right here. They can feel as if they're way off 1,000 miles in the wilderness and really understand what life can be and how wonderful it can be when they get that sense of feeling they are part of nature.